how does he explain, how do you explain his silence this week?
The president has not been silent on this issue.
And you have a big problem. You have that everlasting problem of Iran looking over Israel, soon to have, and remember this, soon to have nuclear weapons. You can't let Iran have nuclear weapons. But the bottom line is they have to be able to finish the job. You have to let them finish the job. You have to support them. But they have to do it quickly.
Former President Donald Trump, the 45th president of the U.S., who was in New York City today, is watching this unfold before his very eyes. Mr. President, thank you for joining us. First of all, how heartbreaking is it? This is a city that I know you once loved, and a lot of buildings are named after you in this city. And watching this happen at an Ivy League institution, as a former New Yorker myself, is heartbreaking. Watching these police put their lives at risk is extraordinarily dangerous for them. Hopefully this can end peacefully, but these students were allowed to enter this hall last night because no action was taken previously. What is your reaction to the news unfolding?
Well, it's just such a sad thing to see, Sean. When you look at this, it's not even believable. If you go back a year or go back 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, this would not even be possible to think about. Nobody would be thinking this could happen. You look at the anti-Semitism, the hatred of Israel by so many people. You go back 10 years, I mean, Israel was protected by Congress, and now Congress is just doing numbers that are unbelievable with, I think, a very, very small group of people within Congress, and it's got to stop. But we have to go back to the roots. We have to protect. We have to stop the anti-Semitism that's just pervading our country right now, and Biden has to do something. Biden is supposed to be the voice of our country, and it's certainly not much of a voice. It's a voice that nobody's heard. And look, I don't think he's able to do it. I don't think he's got what it takes to do it, but he's got to. He's got to strengthen up, and he's got to be heard.
Well, look, you know, I never thought, Mr. President, in my lifetime that I'd hear, you know, anti-Semitism in the halls of Congress. I mean, I never thought we'd be witnessing and hearing chants of death to America, death to Israel on college campus after college campus after college campus. I never thought we'd see this in our lifetime. I thought never again meant never again. But never again seems to be unfolding before our eyes. From the river to the sea, death to America, death to Israel, calls for intifada. This is a frightening time for our country, and in a state like New York that has changed dramatically from the state that we grew up in, you know, now these students that'll be arrested, they'll be released within hours, probably the charges dropped, and there'll be no consequences, which will only embolden them. Your thoughts?
Well, I really think you have a lot of paid agitators, professional agitators in here, too, and I see it all over. And, you know, when you see signs and they're all identical, that means they're being paid by a source. You know, these aren't hand-painted signs where people would go to their basement and paint something because they really believed it. These are all signs that are identical. They're made by the same printer. And, you know, when you see that, that means there's somebody at top that's paying or a group that's paying. And they're doing great disservice to the world, but they're doing great disservice to our country. But when you look at New York in a state like this, but look at other cities, it's not a lot different. It's frankly worse in some places than it is right now in New York. And I think the New York City's finest have been incredible. The way they've been, it's not over yet, but the way they walked in and the way they climbed through that window, they were not afraid of anything. And it looks like they've got it maybe clamped down, but it should never have gotten to this, and they should have done it a lot sooner than before they took over the building, because it would have been a lot easier if they were in tents rather than a building. And tremendous damage done, too. You know, when you look at that building, that's a landmark, and it's really been damaged badly by these people.
But let's talk about October 7th. You had Israelis murdered. You had people burnt alive. You had beheadings. You had kidnappings. You have rape. And meanwhile, they're being pressured over and over again for ceasefires and to stand down, and even our own State Department going against the efforts of the IDF to protect the people of Israel. I'm having a hard time understanding, why don't members of Congress, why aren't these students, why aren't political figures understanding that there is good and evil here, and radical Islamic terrorism is the evil part of this.
Well, I'm watching Jewish politicians abandon Israel, and I've seen it, and you've seen it. Where is Schumer? Why isn't Schumer speaking up? He was always out there in front because he's looking at votes, I guess, and I guess he's looking at maybe more votes than represent Israel, but that has nothing to do with it. You have to stop this war on terror. It's Israel's war on terror. October 7th was beyond violent. It was things done to people that nobody's ever seen before, to babies. And a lot of people that are out there protesting, they deny October 7th ever happened. October 7th did happen, and it was horrible and violent and disgraceful, and it's got to be stopped. You can't have a thing like that. And when you have people out there protesting and they're denying that October 7th ever took place, they're either brainwashed, and in a certain way I really believe they are brainwashed, because you look at some of the comments, they say none of this stuff happened, and, we want Israel back. The fact is you have to get Israel back where it belongs, because what's happening in Israel right now is really not sustainable either. We have to let Israel complete their war on terror. It's a horrible thing, but they have to do it, and they have to do it fast, and we have to get back to order. And people have to respect law and order in this country. They don't respect it anymore. The United States worldwide is not respected anymore, and we have to gain back that respect from other countries quickly.
You said something, and it's something I think most conservatives agree with, and I wish that most Americans would agree, that if a country is attacked and their citizens are murdered and taken hostage and raped, that they do have a right to defend themselves. And what I'm hearing you say tonight is Israel should have the right to win the war, but you're saying win it and win it quickly. It's sort of reminiscent of how you dealt with ISIS in my mind.
Well, we knocked out ISIS in record time. We had it out in 3 to 4 weeks. People said it was going to take 4 years. You have to get the job done. It's a horrible job to do, but they have to respond when they do. When there's an attack, a sneak attack like on October 7th that's so violent and such hatred, you have to clean it out. You have to clean out the cancer, and you have to let them do their job. And frankly, it has to be done fast, because this is not sustainable for anybody. The job has to be done. It has to be done fast. The United States has to get courage, and the United States has to speak up. Nobody knows where the U.S. stands right now. I think Biden is not on the side of Israel, and he's making a tremendous mistake. You have to clean up the terror that we witnessed on October 7th.
Yeah. And, I guess the one thing is I feel bad for Israel, because at a time where you think that America, they're our number one ally, they were with us after 9/11/01. We lost 2,977 Americans that day. They lost the equivalent of 40,000 Americans in a single day. And you would think that you put politics aside and you support their victory in the war on terror. And that would mean Prime Minister Netanyahu's victory in the war on terror. And you're saying you support that and hope that they do it quickly.
Well, I'm the one that designated, in a sense, by moving the embassy back to Jerusalem. Jerusalem becomes the capital. That was, a lot of presidents said they were going to do that. They didn't do it, and did a lot more than that. I mean, we did things that nobody thought were doable, including ending the horrible Iran nuclear deal, which was so dangerous. And unfortunately, the Biden administration didn't do anything with it. That deal could have been made in 1 week, literally, if they knew what they were doing. And you have a big problem. You have that everlasting problem of Iran looking over Israel, soon to have, and remember this, soon to have nuclear weapons. You can't let Iran have nuclear weapons. But the bottom line is they have to be able to finish the job. You have to let them finish the job. You have to support them. But they have to do it quickly. And you can't let scenes like this. The head of Colombia should be ashamed of herself. The job that she's done, she should no longer be there. She should be absolutely ashamed, because she let this take place, Sean.
Mr. President, thank you for being here.
I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building.